Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Scorza, Vice Provost for International Education here at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our evening's UN Pathways event. I see a few new faces in the audience today, so let me just quickly explain the ground rules and how our program is going to work. The program will take the form of a conversation between Ambassador Kamal and the lovely ambassador from Romania. They will range far and wide on a variety of diplomatic topics. This is a very special evening for us because I think that Ambassador Kamal has finally met his match. A diplomat so charming yet so formidable that he daren't provoke, and yet I'm encouraging him to do so. So please, without further ado, I give you Ambassador Kamal.
Thank you very much, sir. Ambassador Miculescu, we have been doing this at Fairleigh Dickinson for 11 years or more. And I just want you to know that it has never been as full a house as it is tonight.
Oh, thank you.
And so I am not sure why it is so full. Either there is a Romanian mafia working to bring everybody here,
Romanian spirit, I would say.
or they know how good you are and they have come here to listen to you, or it is possible that Jason Scorza and his group have promised everybody $1 if they come and attend this lecture. But there is something changed from the usual.
Oh, your program is very good. Ever more appreciated by the students. How about that? Right? That's the idea.
But you're the one in the hot seat, not me. So,
is it hot?
so I thought you should have worn a bulletproof vest, but it appears that I'm the one who now has to wear a bulletproof vest tonight. Let me start by asking you, you have an extraordinary biodata, absolutely unique. You have been ambassador at the UN for almost 5 years. You have been
More than 5 years.
You've been the spokesman of the government, of the foreign ministry.
Excuse me, spokesperson,
No.
not spokesman. Isn't it, ladies? Sorry. I won't interrupt again. I'm sorry. I'm just very rigorous. I'm sorry. You know, at the UN, we have to be very rigorous.
You have been in Washington before for a long period, 4 years. You have served as in very high posts in the United Nations as the Vice President of the General Assembly, and you've chaired a number of meetings. So all this, and you have a very distinguished academic career. You hold a PhD in literature. What made you change from literature to diplomacy? Diplomacy has nothing to do with literature.
Oh, yes.
It is most illiterate people is what you are dealing with most of the time. So what
Do
made
you count
change?
yourself in this description?
Absolutely.
Well, I truly think that diplomacy has a lot to do with literature, arts, with anything that's highly intellectual, of an intellectual sophistication. So I'm very proud to be a diplomat, even if, to tell you the truth, I started with dreaming of being an actress and singer. But in the communist Romania, you couldn't fulfill your dreams because social origin prevailed over talent. So there were only 7 slots at the only drama academy in Romania. And being the daughter, not of workers, but of some modest intellectuals, made me not have a chance. So I switched to a teaching background. I switched to studying foreign languages, but I'll tell you a secret. I went to that school only because they had a great theater group. But then I fell in love with literature. I fell in love, of course, with theater. I made my PhD actually in theater, because you might not know, or maybe you know, that the founder of the absurd theater is a Romanian, born and raised, wonderful playwright Eugen Ionescu. So, also because I couldn't be a diplomat before the Romanian Revolution in 1989. In communist Romania, women couldn't be diplomats. They could aspire to being executive assistants. That's it. So my dreams couldn't be fulfilled at that time, so I just followed teaching career, and I just love every moment of it because it gave me the chance to interact with children and then with students. So I have wonderful memories, so I don't have any regrets. But then, of course, after the Romanian Revolution, I was pretty excited to challenge myself, and I went to the contest in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and from there, my new life started.
Well, you have certainly distinguished yourself at the United Nations, because it is no secret that the United Nations has 193 ambassadors, but only about 20 of them are players. The remaining 170 odd are golf players, not really players. And you are counted among the players. So you have certainly...
You record that, right?
You have certainly occupied a very high position among the players at the United Nations. I would like to ask you some questions about Romania, because you know we are in the United States, which is a country which distinguishes itself by total ignorance of geography. And so how is Romania? Romania is a very unusual country. In the middle of a Slavic circle, it sits like a unique non-Slavic country along with Moldova. How did Romania become a non-Slavic island? It's not it's a huge country, but how does it happen that you have a country in the middle of Slavic territory which is non-Slavic? The Slavic territories are huge. You have Ukraine, you have Bulgaria, you have Serbia, you have Hungary.
Finno-Ugric.
And so how do you get this uniqueness in that region?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's about how it was born like that, but I will tell you how it was born. But I'm very proud to say that the miracle consists in the fact that it resisted over 2,500 years of history and kept its Latin origin, because we are the only Latin island in a Slavic ocean, as they call us. Well, everything started in, okay, if you want me to start with the ancient history, the first artworks, some cave paintings, were discovered in the year 10,000 BC. So we're as old as that. But let's go a little bit farther in history at the year 100 BC, when the Roman Empire wanted to conquer a beautiful corner of those territories at the time, because it had a beautiful landscape and a lot of resources. But this territory had a very, very brave population. The Greeks called them Geti, but we call that population the Dacians. And they were fearless. And apparently they had very beautiful women. So the Roman legion wanted to conquer that territory. It took them 7 years and 2 very long wars, and a lot of soldiers. And of course the numbers were huge as compared to the local troops, to conquer that territory. And this is how the Dacians, and they liked it so much that the whole legion stayed there, settled there. So this is the origin of the Romanian nation. Actually, Romania comes from Romanus, which means inhabitants of the Roman Empire. But the miracle, as I told you, is that we managed to stay like that. And because of all these resources and because of the fantastic landscape, because Romania is very unique, first of all, there are so many reasons, but we have a very short time to tell you everything. We have, for instance, from the landscape point of view, the most balanced distribution of landscape. About 30% mountains, about 30% hills and orchards, and about 30-something percent plains. So it's very balanced, full of resources, excellent for agriculture. It's really a miracle because of also the resources that were there. Over those many centuries, there were a lot of empires who either wanted to dominate and managed to dominate us or to own us. But we're still there. We're still there, very Latin, in the best sense of the word. You know what? I have the feeling that one of the very unique places in Romania, and I'll tell you about it, and you'll understand why it is unique, explains a little bit how we managed to resist so many years. In my region, I'm from Transylvania, so be careful.
You don't look like Dracula at all.
Well, because you are subjective. But if you look closer to the teeth, I correspond to the criteria. I'll tell you about that too if you want, because it's really a fun story. But in my region, in northern Transylvania, which is of course the most beautiful region of Romania, since it's but not only because I was born there, we have the so-called Mary Cemetery. The Mary Cemetery was the initiative of some peasants in that little village. It contains about 800 graves, but they are very unique because they are very colorful. They are painted, they are made out of oak. They are very colorful in the most lively, the liveliest colors possible. And there is a satirical epitaph on each cross about the person that it is in the grave. So I think that we resisted to so many oppressions and repressions, poking fun at death. I'm sure that your parents tell you a lot of times that a little bit of sense of humor can save you out of the toughest situations. Well, I think they're right. Anyway, remember, parents are always right. So I'm so in love with my country. I'm so proud of it. I wish one day you'll remember what I said tonight while visiting my country, because after so many years of isolation, international isolation, and that's actually one explanation why people don't know much yet about us, we are so eager to receive, and we love to have guests. It's one of the warmest and most hospitable nations in Europe. And I think we owe it also to our Latin origin. So it's a lot of fun. And by the way, because we are in a student environment, you know, there is this magazine in France called Slate magazine, and they made recently, like 2 weeks ago, a top of the coolest cities in Europe. And of course, the number of students was one of the criteria. So how cheap the beer is, how much fun you can have, nightlife, entertainment, you know. And we are second. We placed second after Lisbon, Portugal. So I hope that I added to your interest and excitement. By the way, Paris placed 20. And Rome, 14. So it's not me who said it, I'm just quoting. We are fun people. We went through a lot of hardships. Even in the last 20 years, we went through a lot of hardships during our transition to, you know, a solid democratic society. But we keep the spirit up, and we love the world, and we love when we receive the world in our homes.
Well,
actually, sorry, I don't want to forget, but I brought a one-pager, not much, but just one-pager to tell you a little bit about Romania. Consider it a permanent invitation to my country.
You have, among the things that you've done at the UN, is that you have brought music into the UN. And I noticed that the CD, which was made about singing at the UN, in which you figure very prominently, is available here outside in the corridors of Fairleigh Dickinson also. And so, but I want to know a bit more about the way of life in Romania. If you are Latin as a people, and if your origin is Italian because of the Roman legion, does it mean that you are like the Italians, you just sit at home and drink wine all the day and make love and go to the beaches and don't do any work at all? Is that the way of life?
As a fan of Italy, I'm appalled about your perception on Italians. They are lovely people. Excuse me, Italy placed first in arts, in the automobile industry, in everything possible. How can you say that? That can be achieved only through hard work. Yes, they love fun like us, but excuse me, I admire them very much. Well, first of all, you pass very quickly from the topic of the music. I hope that we will come back because I want to tell a little bit the story about that because, of course, I'm very proud of it. But to answer your question, because I know that you like being answered, I'll be very careful with that. I just watched a recording last night in order to see what I can expect, and I see that you love, and it's normal to have your questions answered. My answer is this one. 2 years ago, Eurobarometer, which is an organization that makes a lot of polls on absolutely all the top possible topics within the European Union, made a poll asking which is actually the most hardworking employee, to which nationality the most hardworking employee from the EU countries is. Guess what? Yes, the Romanians placed first. Wow. Yes. Well,
then you can't be Italians in origin.
You won't be able to shatter my love for Italians. First of all, they are our brothers. Due to them, we are in this world. So beware, by the way of mafia. Beware. No.
So on one side Sicily and on the other side Romania.
Transylvania. No. I think that we are very motivated. We wasted, in a way, about 40 years of our lives and history during communism. And I think that we are very motivated to demonstrate that we deserve the place that we got in Europe. And actually, we always felt that we are part of the Western civilization because we were being Latins, right? So for us, the European Union meant, or the membership to the European Union didn't mean only, a political and economic achievement. It meant a moral compensation. Because finally, Europe reaccepted us and acknowledged our Western culture and civilization. So we are very motivated to demonstrate that we deserve this. And all the time, if you ask any foreign company or partner about how the Romanian employees are, they always, absolutely all of them, highlight 3 main qualities. Language skills. We speak at least one foreign language in Romania. I mean, most of the population. Adaptability, an easiness in adaptability, and resilience. So these are qualities that are very much appreciated by the employers, and that explains why a lot of Romanians are not only in Romania, but spread all over the world. You might not know that the second foreign group in Microsoft after the Indians are the Romanians. And I could give you more examples like that. So We're so good, as you can see. The most beautiful country in the world, the best population. Wonderful. No, this is not propaganda. It's just, the subjective opinion of a proud Romanian, but based on objective facts.
I just want to recognize these two young ladies who have arrived, because they are young diplomats from Colombia, and one of them has come all the way from Bogota in Colombia to listen to your lecture.
Okay, I can live with that. I appreciate it, even if it's a beautiful fantasy. But I'm very glad that you're here, ladies.
Now,
and I want to make a mention, because, there are so many things to say, but I want to tell you that out of the 193 ambassadors at the UN, 25 ladies are ambassadors. So the number is growing. So we're waiting for you, ladies.
I know, that's the problem. Because there used to be only 8 women ambassadors, and now there are 25. And I'm now trying to set up an association for the empowerment of men at the United Nations, because we are very worried.
Don't be worried. We love men. Don't be worried, please. Our colleagues spoil us. We receive all the compliments possible when we, joke and have fun together. No discrimination. When we work, no discrimination. We're equal partners, and I appreciate that very much.
Okay, tell me something about the strengths of Romania, the political strengths and the economic strength. What is Romania's strength, and also social strength?
Oh, so how much time do we have?
As long as it takes.
No, it was just a way of saying that.
Us.
Excuse me?
As long as it takes for you to convince us that Romania is good.
Well, of course, I don't try to do that. You have to convince yourselves by visiting and by partnering with my country one day, because you are the future business people, future politicians, the future leaders, and I really hope that you will build bridges with my country. I really think that Romania, the main asset and the main strength of Romania is the people. As always, the major strength of a country is the nation. And I really think that this is the major strength from the political and from the economical point of view. And then the strategic location, because we are at the crossroads, not only geographically, but also at the crossroads of civilizations. And we are a hub, and we are a gate from the Western world to the Eastern world. Geographically speaking, by the way, did I tell you that Romania is actually situated exactly at the half distance between the equator and the North Pole? Exactly, geographically we are there. So in a way, we are in the middle of extremities, and this is a beautiful metaphor for our history in a way. And we always had to keep the balance, we always had to defend ourselves, and sometimes people say that maybe we developed a defensive spirit. But I think that it's about being peaceful. It's not only about being defensive. We are not aggressive people. Maybe we should be a little bit more assertive. But our strength is in the people. That would be the main answer that I would give you. And then, of course, the resources of the country, the traditional industries of the country that are still there, even if a lot has changed in the last 23 years. Please keep in mind that 22 years ago, we were one of the most brutal, if not the most brutal, dictatorship in Europe. And look at us, in only 22 years, where we are. Member of the European Union, member of NATO, member of the Council of Europe. These are achievements that macroeconomically and macro-politically speak a lot about our hard work and our assets. So this would be in a nutshell, because I'm trying to give you short answers in order to be able to cover many topics, and of course to have the time to enter in a dialogue with the students because I look forward having the conversation with the students.
But you see, you've told us that the word Romania comes from Rome. But in most of Europe, when you think of Romania and the word Roma, it is not supposed to be linked to Italy at all. The word Roma is linked to the gypsy population of Europe. And this gypsy population of Romania originally comes from India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And so I feel the link with you. But are the Roma an important part of the social structure of Romania?
In terms of numbers, of statistics, the Roma population represents around 3% of the Romanian population. But in terms of perception and in terms of the ignorance of many, there are even journalists who make or want to make the confusion between Roma and Romanians. And the story is very complicated, and if you allow me, I will tell you. Of course, you in America are not very knowledgeable about this. This is a European issue, and actually the Roma population is a European problem, not a Romanian problem. Because the social integration of the Roma population has been quite a challenge in the last years, and especially after a few countries from Eastern Europe became members of the European Union. That meant freedom of circulation, so they could go and work in Western European countries. And of course, the nomadic character of the Roma population was very pronounced, and they went there, and unfortunately they didn't integrate socially as well as that, so they became a social problem. So unfortunately, in many cases, the Roma population means, unfortunately, or is regarded only from a pejorative from a pejorative perspective. And there were strategies made by European Union regarding the social integration of Roma population. I still think that we have to work even more, and I still think that we should value and use much more the cultural values of the Roma population. Whomever heard a gypsy singing will never forget that experience. And culture, as always, music can be a fantastic instrument, including in as far as social integration is concerned. So it is a matter of perception. Unfortunately, from the point of view of the image of the country, Romania has a lot to suffer because of this, because there were a lot of annoying situations, because some Roma people are pickpocketing. So they are not big criminals, but they do those annoying things in the streets that annoy people. So of course the media, especially in electoral circumstances, finds the guilty persons and the guilty countries and the guilty populations for everything that goes wrong in a society. I would like to highlight, it's a lot about electoral circumstances. Roma become a problem, especially when there are elections in the Western countries. Otherwise, again, I think that we should work more on integrating them in our societies.
I can agree with you on that, because if you steal $10, you are a pickpocket. But if you steal $10 billion, you are an entrepreneur. And so it is true that the Roma population in Europe, particularly in France and Germany, have got a bad rap. But what
Italy.
Yeah, but what I would like to know is, would you consider the Roma, 3% or whatever, as indigenous population of Romania? Are they indigenous, or are they a later addition after the Roman legion came?
It is a later addition, because there were many peoples and tribes that came in the 3rd century, for instance, when the Huns come, the current Hungarians. I mean, there were a lot of populations that came on our territory because, as I told you, there were a lot of attractions there. We consider the Roma people, since they are citizens of Romania, we consider them part of the Romanian nation. We have to take care of them, of their integration, and I'm proud to tell you that the problems of them, they are an ethnic group. We call them minorities in Romania. It's very different from the American system. You call them ethnic groups, we call them ethnic minorities. But we have 18 minorities living in harmony in Romania. Actually, if you go to the Council of Europe and you ask about role models in dealing with the minorities, I'm sure that you will be given the example of Romania. The most important ethnic group / minority in Romania is the Hungarian minority that represents about 7% of the population, and then the Roma, but we have 16 others, Ukrainians, Turks, Greeks, even a small group from Luxembourg who speak the ancient Luxembourg language. Because in different, war situations, they came to the peaceful lands of Romania and they settled. The Saxons, the Germans, who are, I think, maybe the most respected minority in Romania because they actually contributed culturally very much to the evolution of the country. So we take care of this. I think that we are one of the very few parliaments in Europe, at least, I don't know about the rest, where absolutely all the minorities are represented in the parliament, so they have a voice. As voice of the minorities, specifically, because they have specific problems. So we're working on this too.
Tell me more about the ethnic divisions. I'm French, as you know, and so my interest is in women. What are the women like in Romania? Do they have full representation? Do they have powers? Are they in the parliament? Are they in decision-making jobs? Or do we keep them at home to cook and produce children for us?
Do I look like one who stays at home?
No, but you may be
That's
an
the answer.
exception.
Thank God, no. But you have to know that, again, we are very special, very unique. I will tell you, the answer to your question, the short answer is that, thank God, women have full rights and they are equally paid and they are encouraged to be at all the levels of the society. But you have to know that during the communism, the dictator was not considered the worst. Unfortunately, the worst in that dictatorship was his wife, Elena Ceausescu, who was actually an illiterate, but who was a member of the academy. She had all sorts of PhDs, and she was evil. So, to tell you the story in a nutshell, she destroyed the trust in women leaders for at least one generation. And I will give you the example of the first lady after the Romanian Revolution, the wife of the president that I had the pleasure to serve, and you didn't mention the fact that I was the foreign policy advisor to the president of Romania. I'm very proud of those 4 years, and they meant the world to me and an incredible experience. The first wife, the first lady of Romania after 1990, refused to appear in public. And at a certain point, she was very discreet. She never appeared at the presidential palace. In 2001, so after many, many years, I asked her, why did you give up? Because as a foreign policy advisor, I always had to deal with, when a royal couple arrived in a visit in Romania, like the King and Queen of Sweden, or the King and Queen of Spain, you always have to also organize the program for the First Lady. But I didn't have a First Lady. And the president wanted me to accompany both the King and the Queen, and it was impossible. I had to organize the schedule. I was a foreign policy advisor. I was responsible, right? But also to have the pleasure, of course, to escort Laura Bush, the King, the Queen of Spain, amazing ladies. And I asked Madam, the First Lady. You were never tempted? I mean, you could travel the world in the best circumstances, see the best places, in the best conditions. You could represent your country. And she told me, I never abdicated from my principles in 1990, when it was the first time that the president was elected. Because there were some bizarre coincidences. My first name, she said, is Elena. Her first name was Elena. That Elena pretended to be a chemist, and she had a PhD, a fake PhD. This Elena was a real chemist. She was an exceptional chemist. But so there were all sorts of bizarre coincidences like this, but the worst thing, she said, was that they treated me as the one who has to validate absolutely all the decisions of my husband, because this is what they used to do before 1989. All the decisions of the dictator were actually validated at the cabinet number 2 by that woman. I kind of offend the concept of woman, but this is it. So there were so many coincidences that she preferred to be very discreet and to disappear from the public life. And in order to finish this answer, I'm always trying to stick to a certain, I don't promise, like at the UN, whenever an ambassador starts speaking, he usually says, I'll be brief. And then there is nothing about being brief. He knows. He smiles. You see? You did the same, probably. No, I'm teasing, of course. So, unfortunately, the most serious thing that happened was that women in Romania were very shy in accessing the levels of power. Even now, we hardly have. Now we have about 3 women in the government. This is amazing. We have only like 10% of women in the parliament. But ladies, here is the good news. Even if they were shy in the political field, because again, the stigma and the ghost of Elena Ceausescu still haunts, the myth of the woman leader, I have to tell you that in another recent poll of Eurobarometer, Romanian women placed 8th among the 28 members of the European Union at the chapter senior positions held in senior management in the private sector. So they actually compensate in the private sector. They are amazing, amazing leaders. Some of the best companies, Romanian companies, are led by women. And anyway, whenever you have a minister in Romania, be sure that the deputy minister is a woman. So they are coming. But they are given the chances. That's the most important thing. But they also have to take a profit of those chances. So they need to trust themselves more. But I saw that this self-confidence is not only a Romanian feature. I think that you, young ladies, you have to be much more self-confident. I see that, in the world, because the world is ever more complicated and ever tougher, in my opinion. I think that I urge you to be much more self-confident, because you have absolutely all the qualities and you are bound for success.
Don't tell them that. They are already too confident. I'm worried about myself in this audience.
Because we are peaceful. The best peace negotiators are women, so they are peaceful and they accept even men. No, I'm kidding. You know very well that, and I loved that about that agency that the UN set up a few years ago, UN Women. In the speech at the launch of the UN Women, in the speech that the former executive director by now, Michelle Bachelet, had in front of the audience, she said that that UN Women is not only about women, it's also about men. I mean, let's stop with these cliches like, oh, men are so bad, we are so good. No, we are perfect when we work together.
Let's go a bit deeper.
Thank you.
The ethnic structure of Romania clearly makes you a very European country. Because the ethnic structure is a melting pot of Europeanness. Tell me a bit more about Romania's relationship with the European Union, and what has membership of the European Union meant for Romania?
So we became member in 2007. I consider it, and all of us, or many of us, consider it a blessed moment. We worked so hard until 2007 to earn this membership. We are very happy to be there because for Romania it made a huge difference. As I told you, it didn't mean only political and economically the world to us, but it meant a psychological compensation, or it repaired us from the moral and philosophical and psychological point of view. I think that the main things that the European Union brought in our society were the modernization of my country, a profound reform of the administration, and in order to lead a country you need a pretty good administration, and great incentives for the economic development. It meant a lot of work, and we still are working on the mental change. We actually are working on changing the mindsets of those who have lived, and a lot of them lived under the communism, because, you know, you can work hard and achieve things, but the mindsets take generations to change. So we are still working on modernizing the mindsets of all the members of the Romanian society, taking into account the fact that about 40% of the Romanian population still lives in the rural areas. So the challenges are high, but as I hope you understood by now, we are fearless, and we are persistent, and we are tenacious, and we want to do well for our country.
I want to turn a bit towards the United Nations, because you are an active ambassador. You are the Vice President of the General Assembly. You know that by and large, the United Nations is not performing to the level of the expectations that we had from the United Nations. Now, the three young diplomats who are here from the Dominican Republic and from Colombia are all...
My Latin sisters.
Are all working on a Fairleigh Dickinson University project to study what is called the world of tomorrow, that is, say, the world 10 years from today. And so one of the questions is, what will be the shape of multilateralism and the United Nations 10 years from today? Will it be the same as today? In which case, it will be a declining institution. Or will it be able to reform itself in some way to become more democratic and to be more effective in its performance and output? And what are the conditions that are necessary? And how can you, Ambassador Miculescu, help in creating those conditions for a better UN 10 years from today?
Well, of course, I like to think that in 10 years, the UN will surprise us with its new image. Now, I want you to understand from the start that I cherish very much this organization. There were so many negative articles in the international media. Journalists seem to like ever more diminishing the importance of the organization, saying that it's so old and rotten that can't make any more difference in the world. Whenever you hear all those voices, please just go. There is on the site of the Department for Public Information a little fact sheet. No, two actually. No, three that I recommend. One with what the UN does every day. One with the 60 ways in which the UN changed the world and continues to change it. Actually, these are the main two. I warmly recommend you to go there and read them, because that's actually, at a glance, the envergure and the amazing amount of work and complexity of work that UN performs absolutely every day. Now, of course, this organization was born many, many years ago. It has to be reformed because the realities change so fast, unfortunately, and I hope it's for the better. But anyway, the world is ever more complicated. You might not know that the agenda of the Security Council, I'm very curious, Ambassador, when you were Ambassador at the UN, do you remember how many topics, the average of the topics on the agenda of the Security Council?
Oh, around 185.
No, that's the General Assembly. On the Security Council, I meant.
Oh, Security Council does nothing. Zero.
The agenda of the Security Council, which means the number of conflicts that the Security Council has to deal with and still deals with and contributes a lot, in my opinion, to trying to bring a contribution and to make a difference, not only in conflictual situations but also in post-conflictual situations, actually quadrupled in the last years. Quadrupled. So the world, again, is ever more restless. So of course you need a reformed UN. I know you will tell me that we have been discussing about the reform of the Security Council for about 15 years. And there is not much progress. Well, I think that we have to continue. I learned in my personal life that being tenacious is one of the main keys of success. You know very well that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like Kelly Clarkson says in that beautiful song. Well, she's so right. We have to persist. And if you ask me how we can do it while persisting, while being united in this effort, while harmonizing our efforts and trying to be a little bit more creative. And I'll give you the latest example. We have an exceptional president of the General Assembly this year. It's my former colleague, the former permanent representative of Antigua and Barbuda. That tiny island gave to the world an absolutely amazing diplomat. And he actually, you know very well, Ambassador, and you might know that there is a chair of this process that leads the process of reform, which is, he is actually the respected ambassador of Afghanistan, who has been working very hard in the last couple of years to try to harmonize all the views, because there are so many ideas, so many wishes, so many claims regarding the composition of the Security Council mainly. But the current president of the General Assembly added an advisory group to this, to the endeavors of Ambassador Tanin, the ambassador of Afghanistan. Of course, there were a lot of reactions. Why those people and not us? Why those countries and not those who represent? But he actually explained calmly to everyone, I truly want to find, to take a new step. Maybe it's tiny, but I want another form of approaching. Or maybe not another one, but a form that completes and complements the current tools. So I trust him. It depends very much, that's my main message in order to respond to your question. It depends very much on who is leading this effort, and I trust the current president of the General Assembly that he will manage to give an impetus to the process, and it depends very much on the member countries. I mean, the member states are the key here. And what my country can do, for instance, tomorrow in the debate, I will express strong support for the efforts of the PGA. President of the General Assembly will also have our acronyms, thousands of them, trust me. The efforts of the PGA, support for the advisory group, and open to discussing, to be able to discuss other, in identifying other tiny, but you know, with many tiny steps, you can do a big leap sometimes, in order to solve this problem. Of course, we can talk a lot about the reform of the General Assembly, the revitalization, as we call it. I don't like the term because it's like it's dead. No, we're working a lot in the General Assembly. We have 177 items on the agenda of the General Assembly. We're working very hard. there are so many things that may impact our countries tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, metaphorically speaking tomorrow. But anyway, on a short term, but also in 30 years, on a long term. So I wouldn't minimize the activity of the United Nations, the role that the United Nations plays in the world, and I see in 10 years the United Nations still there as the only and the main international organization, but of course with some progresses as far as the reform of the United Nations is concerned.
Yes, but Ambassador Miculescu, we have a major disagreement now between you and me.
Splendid. I was looking forward.
I love your optimism, but it is totally unjustified. If you look at the actual performance of the United Nations, take the Security Council. It is supposed to be there for peace and security. Since 1945, we have had more than 400 wars in the world. More people have died since 1945 than World War I and World War II combined. So obviously it has not succeeded in eliminating wars. Number two, you have three major conflicts in the world: the Middle East, South Asia, and the Far East. And the Security Council has been totally ineffective in all three of them. And now you have a fourth conflict coming up in the whole of East Africa. And so I'm not sure at all whether this Security Council, as it is constructed at the moment, with a high table of 5 people eating caviar and smoked salmon, and 10 people eating hot dogs and scraps of bones, how can this perform in a new world 10 years from today? And I look at you as somebody who will help create a new world, not tell me that this world is fine, which is what you are saying.
I didn't say that the world is fine. I said the world is complicated.
That's what you've said. You've said, go and read this document of what the UN does and then be happy.
Well, first of all, I think that without optimism these days, you can hang yourself. I think that optimism, positivism, and constructivism is the key to resist to the tough world we live in. And to tell you the truth, without a little bit of idealism, you don't have what to do at the UN, because we have to feed all the time our optimism in order to be able to have a constructive perspective on the world. Because you have, at the UN, you have the world in the palm of your hand. That's the feeling that you have. Ambassador, I have to say that, unfortunately, when you make such harsh judgments of the Security Council, you forget that it's not the Security Council that is supposed to solve the problems of the world. It's the countries who have to solve their own problems.
Then why do we need the Security Council?
In order to help with shaping solutions. But it's up to the member states to act. They are responsible of the destinies of their own peoples. It's not the Security Council. The Security Council tries to help in shaping solutions, in helping the population, because you know very well, for instance, I give you Syria. What is the role of the Security Council? Of course, we can talk, I mean, we can do this debate only about Syria, right? How about this very good and very constructive endeavor of destroying the chemical weapons, and the process went very fast, and it's going very well. I mean, you cannot deny, and I still encourage you to go to those fact sheets, because even if the organization is not perfect and it has to be reformed, you cannot deny the contribution that this organization has had in all these years. Those facts are there. They are realities. It's so easy just to criticize and to have a negative perspective. I learned in my very modest home in Romania that you all the time have to acknowledge what is positive and work on what is negative. And that's how I look at the UN right now. I acknowledge their achievements because they have achievements, and I as a country, am very grateful to the United Nations because UNICEF helped the children in my country, because UNDP helped us have a more pragmatic perspective on business. UNHCR helped us. I mean, you cannot deny the contribution, while, of course, being dissatisfied with the level of the reform. That's my perspective, Ambassador, and I keep it.
Well, I'm going to vote for you as the next Secretary General of the United Nations because we need somebody with this level of optimism and punch in order to make this organization go forward.
Trust me, I'm all about moderate optimism, but still optimism. And by the way, it's the turn of Eastern Europe to give the next Secretary General. So thank you, Ambassador.
It is. I have one last question before we open the floor for questions from the audience, and that is, what advice would you give to the young students here who obviously seem to love you even more than I love you? And so why are they all here? Why do they love you so much? And what advice are you going to give them?
Well, they were here out of curiosity, maybe, but I'm very grateful you're here. I'm sure that you were given all the best advices possible from your parents to the previous speakers. But I just want to share with you the slogan of my team. By the way, I have an extraordinary team. We are only six diplomats who have to cover all the main topics of the UN and also follow the priorities of Romania. But our slogan is, never stop reaching for excellence. Nothing, no, I have to translate it from Romanian. Nothing can stop you, nothing should stop you from reaching excellence, not even success. This is the main message that I leave you with, because not only in diplomacy, but in every career that you will pursue, success can make you dizzy sometimes, but excellence is right there, waiting for you. Reach for excellence all the time. And Mother Teresa used to say that you don't have to do great things, but do things in a great way. That's my approach. Every little contribution, every tiny contribution that you can bring around you, it's significant. And by the way, aren't you lucky? I'm so jealous. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do you realize what a chance that is? It's unbelievable. Please leave behind all those questions. Oh my God, what am I doing? What will I pursue in life? Whatever you do, just enjoy every minute. In my country, carpe diem, which is a very ancient Latin slogan, seize the moment, is still valid. Please, I have 2 children, by the way. One of my main achievements, still, I'm a traditionalist. My main achievement are 2 wonderful children. Wonderful because they are normal. Because normality these days seems to be a superlative. And I always, tell them that they have such a great chance, and please don't worry, please don't cry for those boys, At 50, you look at life differently, and now I smile at all my worries when I was in my 20s. I wish I had cherished more the fact that I'm 20 and, trust myself much more and be more hopeful about my future, but I lived in a different system. You are so lucky. I wasn't allowed to travel and study abroad. You cannot imagine that because you live in a free country. I mean, I became a teacher of French and I visited Paris 12 years after I graduated the university because I just couldn't visit it before. I was not allowed. So you have so many chances, even if the world seems so tough and, so much unknown in front of you. Just deal it with dignity, with, hard work, intellectual curiosity, and self-confidence. Really. And enjoy every minute. That's it. Thank you.
I hand the microphone over to Provost Scorza for conducting the question and answer session.
Ambassador Miculescu has consented graciously to answer a few questions about the UN, about diplomacy,
about anything.
Maybe vampires.
Why not?
Because
I'm ready.
a guy will be curious about these things. The lovely and talented Jamal will have the microphone, so please raise your hand to be recognized. Let's start right down here.
Hi.
Hi.
And
Buonasera.
identify yourself.
Can you say buonasera, by the way? Buonasera.
Buonasera.
You have such a great Romanian accent. It means good evening in Romanian.
Hi, my name is Christian Radislovich, and I have a question about Romania's environmental policies, and because I know that every country has a different approach to it, and I was just curious about how Romania approaches it.
Well, it's one of the tough issues in Romania because, unfortunately, during the communism, the dictator had a very, very aggressive policy of industrialization without taking into account the risks that this implies on the environment in Romania. So, unfortunately, there is even a little town in Transylvania, in the center of Transylvania, that used to be the most polluted town in Europe. So we have a very bad precedent. So you can imagine that, like with other very difficult issues, our governments, our successive governments, were very active in this respect. So we grant a lot of attention to this. We have a Minister of Environment who is very involved. Actually, the European Union accession helped us a lot because we had to fast create legislation and adapt it to the European standards, because that was actually the main advantage of getting into the EU. We had all the time to struggle to be at the height of the standards, and that was a very stimulative approach and an asset for us. So it's a major problem for us, and also there are also the dangers of the deforestation that happened, unfortunately, because of the corruption that comes always with transition, unfortunately. It's a wide phenomenon. So deforestation, for instance, accentuated some of the environmental problems. But on the other hand, I wouldn't miss this occasion to tell you that we cherish the issues of the environment, especially because you might not know that the last virgin forests in Europe are in Romania. Whomever is curious, and I hope that I made at least 2 people curious tonight, I invite you to go on YouTube and look for 2 documentaries made not by Romanians, but by the UK Travel Channel. Wild Carpathia, Part 1, and Wild Carpathia, Part 2. And especially in Part 2, there are a few of the environmental topics approached. In this context, I want to tell you that we have the biggest concentration of brown bears in Europe. We have 37, almost 38,000 species of animals. The biggest concentration of wolves, of lynx. I mean, you might not know that we have a delta. The only delta in Europe is formed by the Danube River, the second biggest river in Europe, before entering the Black Sea. It's a delta with 300 species of fish, the biggest wetland in Europe. Lots of wonders. So you can imagine that the environmental policies are crucial for us. And one bracket, because I can't help it, you might not know that the biggest fan of Romania and of the Romanian organic agriculture and landscapes and Saxon tradition is Prince Charles, as in the Prince Charles, because he discovered once when he came in Transylvania that actually in Transylvania we have the best preserved Saxon patrimony in Europe. It's not in Germany, it's not in Great Britain, it's in the heart of Transylvania. So he bought some property there, he developed organic agriculture, and he used to make private visits every year. When I was a foreign policy advisor to the president, I took care of them to be private, but then the British media found out a few years after, so they are not private anymore. But he's a wonderful, wonderful fan of Romania, and we are very grateful. So look for Wild Carpathia.
Could you say that again? I may have misunderstood the word that you've used.
Wild? Saxon, yes, as in S-A-X-O-N.
Oh.
My son was a champion
Thank
at the
God,
spelling bee, so
was
you won't
worried.
beat me.
I was worried about the moral upbringing of the people, students in
Me
Fairleigh
too.
Dickinson.
You can continue to worry if you like. Because we have a standing room crowd, I think justice will be served if we go to the gentleman in black in the back there, and then to the gentleman, well, maybe one or two gentlemen on the right. You guys have seats. You can wait.
There are a few here, by the way.
Please go ahead and identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Jesse William. You had mentioned that one of the strong points of the Romanian culture was maintaining your own unique culture despite outside influences. And you mentioned a lot of the strong points of joining the EU. Has the EU affected Romania's culture negatively in any way through globalization?
I didn't understand the second part of the
Our
question.
question is, joining the European Union, has it created a homogeneity which destroys the uniqueness of Romanian culture?
Absolutely not, and I'm very happy to say that, because in the European Union there is a great respect for heritage, for national heritages. So there is no risk in this respect. The European Union is about solidarity, about common efforts for a better life and prosperity on the continent. It's not about homogeneous cultures and melting the cultures. No, there is a strong, strong respect, and we all cherish our national cultures. And I'm very happy because I'm coming from a country. Our country might be after Russia in that area that has the richest folklore, which means folklore means traditions, of course, but in the 41, in order for you to have to imagine the richness of our traditions, we have 41 counties. It's the administrative division of the country. In each county, there is at least one type, if not two or three types of folklore, which means different dances, different costumes, different kinds of songs. And I'm saying that because I have the feeling that you misunderstood me in a way. We kept our identity, but we were proud to absorb the traces that other cultures left on our territory and in our culture. So, they usually introduce some of us introduce Romania, and I think they are right in a way that Romania has a Latin identity and the Greek Orthodox spirituality introduced by Slavic means. It's such a beautiful, combination. And I'm very proud of that. So even if, of course, we didn't welcome occupation, we respected the traces that they left in our language also. I mean, Romanian is one of the 5 Romance languages, next to French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian. But nobody knows that. And when you listen to Romanian, there are some sounds like th, that are not typical for Spanish, even if we have a grammar which is as complex as the Spanish one, very tough. For those who learn Romanian, they say that it's pretty complex. So we celebrate traces, but we keep our identity, and we are very eager in preserving the traditions. I go every year for Christmas back home, and I'm very happy because we have rituals, ancient traditions and rituals that you don't see in the southern part of the country, for instance. And we are very, very much aware of that, of how precious that heritage is.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Amog. I have a question. Like recently in news, I heard that in Bucharest there are like a lot of protests going on regarding the Rosia Montana project. That is like the cyanide poisoning for the land. It's like related to gold mining. So like United Nations has like termed it as like a major disaster in like a human-made disaster. So what are the steps that like United Nations is taking to stop this project?
Well, it's not up to the United Nations to deal with this. No,
I just want to know is like United Nations say that like this is a major disaster,
No.
like human-made
It
disaster.
didn't even start, actually.
Yeah, it's like people are protesting about it, and it's in news that like United Nations reported it like that. So I was just wondering if United Nations is doing anything to stop it, or not yet.
No, the United Nations is actually shaping the environmental policies, but these situations are dealt bilaterally, and they are dealt in the countries. So Rosia Montana is actually a little village where there is the biggest golden mine, one of the biggest golden mines in the world. And of course there are a lot of interests in there, including national ones. A Canadian company wants to exploit the gold and to develop the area. The environmentalists say that the only way to extract such a big quantity of gold can be done only with the, I don't know how you, cyanide, exactly, which is of course very dangerous for the environment. So there are a lot of protests in Romania. All the NGOs, the civil society, students are protesting against it. The government tries to explain that they have to do what's best for the country because those people in that area are very poor. So there is a conflict. Now the discussion takes place in the parliament, so I think it's up to the parliament. Of course, taking into consideration all the policies that the United Nations and European Union set up, but it's up to the country to solve the problem. And we hope that we will manage to make peace.
Because this is an
Sure.
important question. All development is environmentally unfriendly by definition. And so you have to make a choice. Do you want development or do you want environment? And so this problem of choice at the UN has been identified by the term sustainable development, meaning you must develop, but try to do it with the minimum damage to the environment. But you cannot have development without environmental degradation. It's not possible. And so you may be in love with the environment, but you have to be more in love with development.
And you know that environmentalists have very dramatic ways of expressing themselves. So to tell you the truth, the Romanian nation, I have the feeling that the Romanian nation finally discovered saying no and demonstrating. We couldn't do that 20 years ago. So if there is a problem with stray dogs, or if there is a problem with Rosia, there are thousands of people who come in the street. You know what? I salute that. We finally celebrate the freedom of expression. And of course, it is a concern for the government, and you couldn't spell it out better. I would suggest my Prime Minister to offer you the job of spokesperson for this issue, can I? You are so right, Ambassador.
Provided I can stand next to you while giving...
I finish my post next year, so okay, we can discuss that. Thank you very much for your interest.
The next question, the young fellow with the glasses and the green jacket right in the middle here.
How
And
about
then
ladies?
we'll go
How
to...
about ladies?
Well, that's actually a fair point.
Thank you.
But you're wearing a Knicks shirt, so we got to go with you. You're long-suffering.
Hi, my name's Pascal. Here in the U.S., when you're looking for higher education, you only seem to get financial assistance, whether you're struggling financially or you're gifted intellectually. And what I was wondering, what does Romania offer their students searching for a higher education financially, or what do they give them, in a sense?
Yeah, I would like to add a supplement to that. Is education free in Romania?
Yeah.
Or if it is not, how much do you normally have to pay for university education?
Well, education for us, of course, is crucial, but the educational system went through a lot of reforms during the last 22 years. During the communism, absolutely all the forms of education were free. But then after the revolution, because as you see, it comes obsessively, our life is divided into two, before or after the revolution. After the revolution, of course, we started looking up at the Western models, and the first private universities were set up. But the system being very, very young, there were a lot of hardships and lots of excesses, let's say. But still, the state universities in Romania, most of them offer free education. There are two systems. Free education for those who pass the contacts with the best marks, and some tuitions which are a joke as opposed to the tuitions in America. I mean, you guys I don't envy you. I thank God my daughter graduated university this year. Thank God she managed here. FIT, by the way. I'm very proud of her. So there is a variety of solutions offered to the students. Of course, there is a tendency of many of the Romanian students to study abroad because we kept so many years, and their parents kept so many years in their heart, this frustration that they can study abroad, that, you know, we are so curious about the world. So our youngsters are all over the place in many, many American universities. So they choose, many of them choose to study abroad also because there is a respect and a fascination with the Western universities, and for good reasons, because they are excellent. So there is a, well, I don't know, I tried to give you an example of tuition at a private university because I taught there. I was the first one to introduce the international public relations topic in the curricula of 2 universities in Romania. So I studied there. So let me remember the tuition and try to translate it in dollars. Oh, God. But I'm not sure it's the current one. Anyway, it's not more than $2,000 per year. $2,000 to $3,000.
Don't get any funny ideas about moving to Romania.
Don't tell.
Please do.
Don't tell them that. They'll all leave FDU and go to Romania.
Thank you. That was a point. I have to say that we have a lot of French students in the School of Medicine in Cluj, in the cultural capital of Transylvania. I mean, it's a tendency because people are running away from huge tuitions, and even if we were the subject of huge transformations of the education system, and everybody in Romania complains about it, oh my God, we destroyed the system of education. But whenever the Romanian students are going abroad, whatever they study is peanuts, as opposed to the very intensive education that they get back home, because we still are very tough with the volume of information, theoretical information that we pump in the children and students. So for them, I mean, my son, when he came to the elementary school in Washington, D.C., when I served, my first post abroad was in Washington, D.C., thank God. He had just started the first grade in Romania, so he had finished the first 2 quarters, and when the principal saw his notebooks, what he had studied in those 2 quarters, he wanted him to graduate directly the 3rd grade. That's the difference. So what I'm saying is that you can trust the quality of the education in the Romanian university, because I'm very proud. Our students, wherever they go, they shine. I'm so sorry you don't have Romanian students here. Maybe you should be happy.
We do,
because they would be the best.
They're studying. They're studying, right?
What?
They're busy studying, so they couldn't come tonight.
Of course.
But
In order to be fair, I have to say that I respect and adore the academic education in America, especially because you are dealing with exceptional professors who are, many of them are practitioners from those fields, and because the practical dimension of the academic education in America is unmatched, and I say it in all responsibility because I studied all the offers.
if I can just add, state universities are free, and private universities are $2,000 a year. Now, this is true not only for Romania, but for all of Europe.
Eastern Europe.
All of Europe, no, even Western Europe. Doesn't cost more. I studied throughout my university in France, and the tuition for a whole year was something like $150.
Well, that
That's
happened
it.
20 years ago, so
No, it was
things changed.
Actually, I'm older than that. It was 50 years ago. But you are
The next question will come from the young lady here. And then, I'm sorry, maybe 1 or 2 more.
Good evening. My
Bună
name
seara.
Bună seara.
Voilà. Perfect. Thank you.
My name is Siban Jaili. My question is about Romania's transition from communism to democracy, and how easy is that for Romania? Because I know it's very challenging to go through a democratization process for many countries. So how are the citizens dealing with that transition? Are they embracing it well? Was it difficult for them to embrace democracy and all of the freedoms that come with it generally?
Well, easy is a word that you cannot use absolutely at all in this context. It was not easy. It was very difficult. It's still difficult because, as I said, it's a matter that you deal with generationally. You can't just snap the fingers and have everything you want. I remember very well at the time of the revolution that we were so naive, thinking that now that Ceausescu is gone, the gates of paradise will open and we will live happily ever after. And after ecstasy, agony came. Because we were like coming from, a black hole up in the sun, and the light was so strong that we couldn't see anything. We couldn't see which way to take, which way to go. It was very tough. And as I told you, we worked very hard politically, economically, went through very many hardships, very many tensions, even conflicts. But what's here takes a lot of time. The mindsets take a lot of time to be changed. And we're working on that. So transition is very tough. But now we are experts in transition. That's why, for instance, we are very helpful with our colleagues, for instance, from the Eastern European countries who aspire to get the accession to the European Union. Moldova is the main example, also because they are very dear to our hearts. Because now we know, we have our lessons learned that we are ready to share. And also, we actually even offered expertise in this respect to the countries who experienced the Arab Spring. Because now we know that nothing comes with a little bit of effort, no. Democracy and freedom comes with a lot of hard work, especially when you come from such a restricted and oppressed system. It's much more difficult than scratching from zero.
We have time for one more question. I'm going to call on the young lady in the very back row.
Good evening. My name is Kubra. I'd like to go back to the European Union. I know that you mentioned that the Romanian country gained access to the European Union in 2007. Yes. I was curious, how long after the revolution did they apply for membership, and what are some of the criteria in joining the European Union?
Well, in our way, we started immediately after the revolution to work little by little for the accession. But the official negotiations started in 1993, when we became members of the Council of Europe. And that's when our practical path towards Europe started officially, because we had to adapt, to change, to create new legislation. The reform of the judiciary, there are political criteria and economic criteria in order to be able to match the standards. So it started in 93 and it finished in 2007. I remember very well when in 2004, the president that I served actually signed the finalization of the negotiations on the 4,000 pages European acquis, as they call it, European legislation. And it took even 3 years more, to be able to respond to absolutely all the requirements. So it was a long and bumpy road, but we're very proud that we made it. We're still, some say that we were not ready, and we appreciate very much the fact that the European Union got us the chance to be stimulated by the acceptance, to make us work harder. So it's a continuous process in a way. Yes.
I would like to ask the final question, which is linked to this last question. Romania is a very interesting, I have watched Romania very carefully for 10 or 12 years, because both my teaching assistants have been Romanians. But,
lucky you.
Indeed. But they were also lucky. to have
Yes, that goes without saying. I didn't even have to mention that. It's true. It's absolutely true.
the Romania is interesting because it is in many ways a bridge between Latin Europe and Slavic Europe. And so what you call the acquis européen, that is, say, the European-ness, is exemplified by the bridge of Romania. But there is one other country which also has that bridge role, and that is Turkey, which is a bridge between Europe and Asia, and yet which is very much like Romania, a part of NATO, a part of the European-ness, etc. But it is having major difficulties in trying to get into the European Union. What is your view about Turkish entry into the European Union on the basis of your own experience of Romanian entry into the European Union?
Well, the first thing that I want to tell you is that Romania is one of the strongest supporters of the accession of Turkey to the European Union. We have had a very solid relationship over the years, and we are very good partners because actually they are our best partners in the Black Sea area. You might know or not that the role of Romania, for instance, in the European Union, the contribution that we can make politically is the European strategy regarding the Danube. We are very active and we are a key player in that. We are a key player in the Black Sea cooperation, and in the Black Sea cooperation, Turkey is the main partner. Of course, it's difficult to make a parallel between Romania and Turkey because the cultural backgrounds, the historic backgrounds are so different. We are a bridge between East and West. They are a bridge between even North and South, and a religious bridge which is even more complex, let's say. But seeing the Turkish diplomacy at work, both in the European Union and in the United Nations, I trust they will succeed. It won't be easy because, you know, the historic reasons, but I trust they succeed, and Romania will do everything possible to support them, their endeavor.
Thank you. Most of all, I'd like to thank all of you and the ambassadors for spending the evening with us. Thank you so much.
What a thrill. Thank you. I miss so much those times when I, was a professor at university, so thank you for giving me this joy. And I have a last request. Can I have a picture with them?
Of course.
I put it on Facebook. You find me on Facebook. Simona Miculescu, look for me. Okay? And if you have any other questions, I'm there.